Hello friends, this is Chandrakant from Akulmac Technologies. Welcome to Top Brass. And in this series, we are discussing about the human rights. And for this discussion, let me welcome my friend from Ahmedabad, Mr. Nagesh Sood. Briefly, for the viewers who have not seen this series before, Nagesh Sood is a very senior advocate practicing in Ahmedabad High Court and also a very well known human rights activist known across India. So, without further ado, welcome to Top Brass, Nagesh.
Hi CK, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be here. So let's begin.
Right. So, Nagesh, thank you for your presence in our program. We have been discussing about human rights and various aspects of human rights. So far we have discussed many aspects, many laws. Today, we would like to tackle the right to clean environment for the citizens of India and like to know your opinion on this one.
Yes, CK, the concept of human rights in general actually emerged after Second World War. But the right to healthy environment as one of those human rights was never a priority for us human beings. Today, this right is emerging uh, with a new concept, and this is being hotly debated in human rights arena. Actually, a healthy environment is an essential aspect of the right to life, not only for human beings but also for other animals on the planet. Violation, therefore, of the right to healthy environment is potentially a violation of the basic right to life. Environment deterioration could eventually endanger life of present and future generations, and therefore the right to life has been used in a diversified manner in India. It includes the right to survive as a species, quality of life, the right to live with dignity, and right to livelihood. In India, this has been expressly recognized as a constitutional right. Article 21 of the Indian Constitution states that no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to procedures established by law. So, the Honorable Supreme Court has expanded this negative right in two ways. Firstly, any law affecting personal liberty should be reasonable, fair, and just. And secondly, the court has recognized several unarticulated liberties that are implied in Article 21. It is by this second method that Honorable Supreme Court has interpreted the right to life and personal liberty to include the right to a clean environment. Now, what is the international scenario? In the international world, the Human Rights Conference on Human Environment was first held in Stockholm in 1972, which is popularly called as Magna Carta of Human Environment. In the conference, the people were warned that the natural resources of the earth, including air, water, land, flora, and fauna, and especially the uh, natural ecosystem, must be safeguarded for the benefit of present and future generations through careful planning or management. Then there was a report on World Commission on Environment and Development, which suggested 22 legal principles for environmental protection and sustainable development. In India, although the real panic came to be felt only after the Bhopal gas tragedy in 1984, yet it had begun concentrating on problem of pollution after the Stockholm Conference. Indian Parliament passed many statutes to protect and improve the environment, namely the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, Water Prevention and Control Pollution Act 1974, the Forest Conservation Act 1989, the Air Prevention and Control Pollution Act 1981, and above all, the Environment Protection Act 1986. Further, the Constitutional 42nd Amendment Act 1976 incorporated two significant articles, namely Article 48A and Article 51AG, thereby making the Indian Constitution the first in the world conferring constitutional status to the environmental protection. Now, fundamental duties are defined under Article 51A, which enlists 10 fundamental duties intended to promote people's participation in restructuring and building a welfare society. Article 51AG specifically deals with the fundamental duty to citizens to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, and wildlife. Now we have directive principles of state policies, and Article 47 provides that the state shall regard the raising of the standard of living of its people and improvement of public health as among its primary duties. So Article 48A provides that the state shall endeavor to protect and improve the environment and to safeguard the forest and wildlife of the country. We have provisions in the Penal Code also that makes pollution a crime, especially Section 277, which relates to water pollution. Section 278 relates to, again, air pollution. Section 426, 430, 431, 432 relates to pollution in general. And Section 368 talks of public nuisance. So the concern for integrated environment in the context for planning for economic development was specifically raised in the 4th and 5th five-year plans and mainly talked about the obligation of each generation to have sustainable development. Then there were various cases wherein, the environmental jurisprudence in India has been developed, mostly by interpreting Article 21 by the Honorable Supreme Court, involving different facets of human life. Some of which I would narrate, which would help us, our viewers, to understand that how Supreme Court enlarged the scope of Article 221 and gave directions to remove environmental problems in the society. In MC Mehta versus Union of India, one of the cases, the directions were given by the Supreme Court to remove environmental illiteracy and the cinemas and video parlors and even the Doordarshan were required to give 5 to 7 minutes daily about environment programs, and it was compulsorily required as an education, environment education in the schools and colleges. In another case of MC Mehta versus Kamal Nath, Supreme Court made it clear that any disturbance of basic environment elements, namely air, water, and soil, which are necessary for life, would be hazardous to life and can't be polluted. In that case, hotel was discharging effluent into river and hence causing disturbance to aquatic life and water sanitation. In rural litigation and entitlement Kendra versus state of UP, limestone mining in Missouri Hills, which was degrading trees and forest cover, they said mining was banned. In another case, namely Tarun Bharat Sangh versus Union of India, there were 400 marble mines were closed around Sariska Tiger Reserve. Then, of course, the government is doing a lot about preventing pollution of Ganga and Yamuna since 1995. And uh, there are also many uh, uh, programs which are being conducted to save biodiversity in various parts of our country, especially in Kerala. Vellore Citizens Welfare Forum again was a case where precautionary principle and polluter pays principle was involved, wherein any person who is polluting the environment is required to pay for that pollution to the government. So there are many cases wherein the Supreme Court has intervened, and uh, the various industries, such as in Taj Trapezium case, and pollution by loudspeakers. Then there are various cases where the scope of Article 21 has been expanded and the pollution has been controlled by various judgments of the apex court. So today, essentially, what is required is the uh, pollution, which has increased doubly, and there is tripling of economic output, and there is persistence of poverty, which are the main reasons for pollution in the environment. So, of course, there are various movements, and there are massive maneuvers which are being done, and even the children and laymen have come forward to protect the environment. But still, India needs a global war on environmental degradation that is as aggressive and well funded as the war on terrorism. So, more than what we need is to take necessary steps to ensure that environment remains at the top of our agenda.
Uh, Nagesh, I think I fully agree with you to what you said in the end after finishing your legal discourse. Um, However, I have two questions. I will ask them one by one. One of the question is, while government has so many laws to protect the environment, but I think India being a very large country with a lot of population, I think there is a need to increase the awareness about the environment. Uh, I think the situation is not so grave if you follow the religious aspect of it, because the religion itself will teach you to have a balance with yourself and the environment. But somehow our society, and it's so many numbers, 1.3 billion people, we tend to not follow the Indian ways. I think there is a need to make people aware so that they can keep their environment clean and have that consciousness to live in a clean environment. That is my question number one. So I will ask you question number two after your response.
Yes, CK, I absolutely agree. What we require is, very important for all of us is environment consciousness. You see, when we live around, we see around us there is so much of pollution. I would give a very simple example of, disposing our garbage. When we have been taught in not only in TV advertisements and otherwise through newspaper advertisements, that we have to separate wet garbage and dry garbage, which would help the garbage collecting machinery to separate it and to decompose that garbage in a proper manner. We still in our houses don't do it. So that is a very basic thing. Secondly, use of uh, uh, single plastic. Now, plastics we are using, we even now that the states have come forward with the ban of single-use plastic, but uh, many a time we see when we go out and buy vegetables, we are given the vegetables in plastic polythene bags. Now it is a single-use plastic which needs to be banned absolutely. So what we require is we have to use a bag, maybe a cloth bag, or maybe a bag which is of paper. We have to have that shift on our own, instead of just casually not being conscious about how this is going to affect the environment. Because anything which cannot be decomposed would be harmful, which cannot be recycled would be harmful to not only our health but to our future generations also. So all these things require consciousness, awareness, which is being done. Every day we see that this is being done. We see the advertisements. We see a lot of hoardings, which is there. But you have to somehow, as we say that we have to follow a God, we have to follow it like our religion. So this is very important, and I absolutely agree with you that environment consciousness has to be developed in every citizen.
So I think a lot of schools are giving sort of orientation to the students, but I think a lot more to be done, because the population of India itself is so huge, and the penetration of these awareness programs is not enough. I think we need to do more, maybe some volunteers and all that. So that is the first part which we have to take care as a country. The second question is related to water. Now, if you look at India, India has almost like 20% of the population of the world, and maybe 25, we don't know. But the palatable water is only 1%. So it is no brainer. The amount of fresh water available in our country is not sufficient for everyone. And I have been talking to a lot of educationists and environmentalists. They have said that in years to come, the water will be the next gold. There will be so much scarcity of water. So I think we need advanced technology solutions. So it's no longer following the Indian way. I think to conserve water for the future generation, we need to follow certain highly technical solutions. So what is your take on that from the legal standpoint? What we should do to protect our water?
Absolutely, Chandrakant. So far as water is concerned, see, first of all, we have a lot of groundwater which is available to us. Now, groundwater in our country is not taxable. You see, anybody and everybody can, take take out any amount of groundwater from, people have been using pumps, people have been using, motors in societies, in big, large societies. You see, the groundwater is being exploited. So first of all, people has to value the water which is available. Now, groundwater is one kind of water which is uh, uh, which can which is safe for drinking and which can be used for many activities. Secondly, we have perennial rivers, ponds, etc., wherein what we see that a lot of industries and a lot of people dispose of the affluents, the industries, the chemical industries, and all sorts of pollution is being created in the rivers. So people don't value the water which is available in our country. What they see is that there is a river, there is a flowing river, there is a pond. We should use it for any other purpose, and which is not valued. So first of all, we have to protect the water bodies and water which is available to us. Let us have a movement wherein everybody needs to be taxed for the use of water. a lot of when there is a taxation on water, probably that would help people to use it conservatively. So I think that is one of the solution. Plus this awareness, of course, we are spreading awareness how we should not keep the taps open when we are brushing our teeth or when we are using the water. How the water has to be conserved. Of course, this is a method of conserving the water, but whatever water is available, first of all, we have to value the availability of water, and then use it very conservatively. And also, then how we have to develop recycling of water, etc. Of course, that's a government's job, how the recycling has to be done. But what is important is conserve the water, use it conservatively, and the government should impose tax on the water, and therefore that is how we can preserve it for our future generations.
There are a couple of things, Nagesh, I wanted to discuss on this subject. Number one is that almost 99% of people in India are drinking either the bottled water or the reverse osmosis machinery. In fact, even the small houses with less income also are drinking the RO uh, clean water. Now, the biggest problem is, first of all, we have less water. And when we have RO machines in every house, every apartment across 1.3 billion households in India, the 50% of water goes waste because you're cleaning the water itself. Uh, so I think that's a big challenge. I think something has to be done about it. Do we need a different technology than the current that we have? Secondly, since you're talking about taxation or some sort of extra money, because anyway water is going to become more expensive in future. We know that for sure. So don't you think that we should have some smart systems to pay only for the clean water, and if somebody gives us uh, impure water, we should not be paying for it. So there has to be some mechanism. uh, I think a lot of people are talking about these technologies, but I think more than taxation and more than anything else, because water is going to become more and more expensive and dearer, I think we should rely on technology to pay only for the clean water that we pay. Uh, we get, because whatever type of water we get, we are going to waste half of it anyway in our house. So what is the point?
Well, CK, I have this suggestion in my mind. You see, across the world, we get drinking water in the taps, right? So, in a lot of municipalities in India also, uh, the government is able to provide drinking water in the taps, wherein you are not required to use any kind of RO machines or reverse osmosis process, etc., where we see a lot of wastage. It is only where the drinking water is not provided by the government that these machines are being used, because a lot of groundwater is used by cooperative societies and other people, which is not a pure water. Drinking water is not available. So, first of all, if the government ensures that for every citizen there is a provision for drinking water, then I think these kind of systems will not be used. As I say that if water is taxable, then of course the government would improve upon the means of providing drinking water to everybody. In villages we see there are hardly any resources, or people are drinking very unhealthy water through ponds, etc., and even they have to travel long distances to get drinking water, or to so to say water. So all these things actually are in the arena of government's responsibility, and also a lot of NGOs, can be, taken for these kind of movements. So, this would help in providing drinking water to people in a large scale. Secondly, what you said that you see, there is a lot of wastage of water, a lot of water is not being used. So, why this is waste? The water is wasted is that people don't value it. You see, we are only, if we only value drinking water, we have to understand that the other water which is not uh, clean can be made palatable or can be used for drinking if it is clean. It has to undergo a process. Now the government may use a lot of processes which are not very expensive. So every water, whether it is clean or whether it is not very clean, has to be valued and used in a proper way. So no amount of water what it comes to our household has to be wasted, and it has to be used very prudently, so that the water which is groundwater, which is not very clean also, can be used by the government, and then it can, from one system that should be made available to the entire community. So that is my view, because people are now using at homes, their own system, their own water machine, motors, etc. They are extracting groundwater. Society is extracting groundwater. Now that is not clean. So that is how people are using RO machines or aqua guards or other purifying machines in their homes. But if it is the government which uses the entire groundwater, makes it taxable, and gives supply to each and every household, then I think people would not misuse the water which is available to us.
In fact, I fully agree with you. Being Indian, I think we should value our water. I think that is where we can end our discussion today. But viewers, let me tell you, many things are going to happen as the time passes. As Nagesh has already said, there will be a taxation on water. We don't know because government will take care of certain resources in the country. But I think awareness is also very, very important. It is not only responsibility of the government, but also citizens, because we have to protect our water. And as time passes, the water will be much more expensive. So I think we should start practicing from today itself. And water forms one of the major component of the clean environment. So clean air, clean water, clean surrounding. And that is the topic of discussion for today. So thank you very much, Nagesh, for joining us today. It was a wonderful session we had.
Thank you very much, CK. It was pleasure being with you. Thanks a lot.
We'll catch up tomorrow again on some other human rights issue. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.